Setting pins isn't just for the bowling alley. The first step in lining your field is setting pins in the ground to attach a string line that you can use as a guide. Remember, you want to set your pins according to how you will apply the chalk or paint. If your chalker is set to guide on the outside edge, then you'll want the anchor pins set on the foul edge of the foul line. That way, when you chalk the line, your foul line will be entirely in fair territory, as it should be. If your chalker is set to guide down the middle, pound your pins in at the center of where your foul line should be.
All right, to set up your anchor pins for your guide string lines when you're painting or chalking, the first thing we have to keep in mind is how are we going to use that guideline? Are we going to use it in the center of the line, or is the guideline going to be on the edge of the paint or chalk line? Most people typically will have that line on the edge of the paint or chalk line. So let's say I'm lining up the foul line here to string up. What I'm going to do with my pin then is, we know that the foul line, the edge of it has to run along the edge of the white. So that's where our string line needs to be. It needs to be right along this edge here. So we want to make sure that this pin then is lined up with that edge. Now, sometimes what you can do is take this pin and lay it straight so you know approximately where that pin's got to go. And we'll just set that pin right in there. Maybe give it a tap or two if it's a little hard. And then we can go ahead and set up our string line. The other end is going to get anchored down by the foul pole to make sure that we've got that end of that string line totally in line with the edge of the foul pole. Okay, so we're on the other end of where that guideline is going to be. And remember, we put the pin down at home plate on the foul edge of the home plate area. We need to do the same thing with the foul pole here. We don't want to put the string in the middle unless we were using the string line as a guide right down the middle of the foul line. But in my case, I always use it on the foul edge. So I want to make sure that that pin is on this foul edge of this pole. So we line that up, making sure that's lined up along the edge. Go ahead and pound that in. And now when we're on our string line, as we look down from home plate area down here, we should be able to notice that that string line is going to be lined up right with the edge of this foul pole.
Another factor in accuracy is a perfectly straight string line. Start by looping your string line around the pin set near the foul pole. Then extend the string line to home plate, where you'll wrap the string around the pin, starting on the outside of the pin. Pull as much slack out of the line as possible and secure it around the pin. Then walk to the middle of the line near the base and snap the line. Snapping the line is when you lift the line a couple feet off the ground and let it go, snapping it back to the ground. This will straighten the line. Go back to behind home plate and see if your line looks straight. If not, go back to the middle and snap it again until the line is straight.
All right, so now we'll run our string line, hooking that loop of the string line up down here at the foul pole. We'll take it back towards home plate. Okay, so we've stretched our string out now. We're going to get this tied up to our anchor pin here at home plate. We want to make sure this is good and firm, and it is. And we're going to pull as much of that stretch out as possible without breaking the string line. Especially with a long string run like this, the longer the run, the more slop you can have. So you want to make sure that this string is nice and tight. So we wrap this around. First of all, I want to check and make sure that's lining. Looks like I got to go on the other side of the pin. Yep, to line up with the white edge here. And we'll just wrap this around once. And now we're just going to pull all that slack out. Get it as nice and tight as we can. And then there's a special knot that I like to use where we just take it, loop it, wrap it around the string once, bring the loop through underneath, and pull it. Now it's tight. Now we can go pop the string to make sure we get it good and straight. So to pop it, we just want to bend down, bring this up. We don't want to bring it up real high because there's too much room for it to move around. But we want to make sure it's high enough so that the string is off the ground in both directions. All right? The other thing you got to be careful of is some people will tend to pull the string towards them, or they'll pull the string out. You want to try and pull it straight up as much as possible. Give it a pop. All right? Make sure it's falling in a good place. You want to make sure it's not catching on anything as you look up and down the lines when you're popping it. All right, let's go down on the end here. We'll look back up and check it. Okay, so we know that the string line is nice and straight. We looked down at the end and looked up the string line. Looks good and perfect. The last way to check it now is by using the base. All right, so I'm pulling my base plug here. I'm going to use my base scoop or my dig out tool to make sure that's nice and clean. It looks pretty good. I'm going to set the base in here. And the string line should come right on the edge of the base. And this looks perfect. So, knowing that this is right, and looking down on the end and looking straight, we know that we're pretty much set now to go ahead and chalk or paint this line.
So, setting up the string line is pretty simple. There's plenty more we could tell you about laying out your ball field, but we'll cover more later in this lesson in Section D. For now, try this pop quiz about the string line to make sure you're ready to continue to the next section about chalking and painting.